Well, folks, welcome to Love the Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, your number one African Caribbean online radio. We are here with the amazing, the incredible, yes, the incredible Sheldon Mendoza. He's here with us this afternoon, this morning, this evening, wherever you may be around the globe. My name is DJ TYB, the place to be. You know what, Petra, normally Petra, my sidekick, she'd be always with me on this program. But today she's performing somewhere. Yes, for a charity. No, we do charitable work. On this radio station, we feed the homeless, we clothe the homeless, we look at the underprivileged, and that's the African way. That's why I love the Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We don't just play the music, we bring the artists, and we focus on Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora. When it comes to our music, our culture, our traditions, well, we've been maligned, but hey, this is the platform for it because, hey, this is the infrastructure. But I always say, folks, if you have a story and you don't tell the story yourself, and you get somebody else to tell the story for you, it becomes his story, not your story. And we know what history has done to us as a people. So we bring the music, we bring the traditions, we bring the history, we bring everything. We focus in, and you know what, the African way. So, without much ado, I have a very special guest, all the way in TNT, Trinidad and Tobago, in the person of Mr. Sheldon Mendoza. Hi, Sheldon, how you doing?
Hi, Love Bay Radio. Bigging you up from Trinidad and Tobago. It's Sheldon Mendoza in the house. I'm doing fine. How you guys doing over there?
It's awesome. We're doing great. We're doing awesomely great. And how's the weather there? See,
It's hot today. It's very hot today.
you're lucky. You also, as for us, when we see the sun, we jump for joy. Yes, we jump for joy because we don't normally see that.
We're running from the sun over here. We're trying to find the shade.
Awesome. It's glad to have you here with me, Sheldon. We've linked up, and we're going to be talking about whatever we need to talk about this afternoon and this evening. And no matter where you are and no matter what you may be doing, folks out there, Sheldon is in the house. So those of us viewing us on Facebook, LinkedIn, StreamYard, and YouTube, yes, this is the man. Sheldon, tell us a little bit about yourself. Sheldon Mendoza. The floor is yours, please.
Well, as the world now knows, my name is Sheldon Mendoza. I'm a music video director, television producer, a recording artist, a sound engineer. You know, I do so much in the entertainment industry. I'm also a former radio announcer and DJ. So, just talent.
That's right. Yeah, Sheldon, share with us how you got into the business.
Well, let's start off how I even discovered that I liked music, which was like probably around 8 years old. You know, in primary school, I used to write calypsos and enter competitions in school. And I was so good at it that my friends would ask me to write for them too. So sometimes in the competition, all the songs are my compositions. You know, and as time went on, as I grew older, I started to get involved in the different music that was coming to our island, like the reggae and the hip hop. You know, as those influences were coming in, I got really interested in hip hop. I started to rap. Then I got interested in dancehall music and started to do the little chanting and stuff. You know, and there's a big competition in our country back then that was called Nescafe Party Time. It was a talent competition. There would be lip sync, dancing, and singing. So I had a friend by the name of Stacy Sobers, a girl, and I wrote a song for us, and we went on the show, and we made it to the finals. So we became very popular in Trinidad. We had a song called Sweet Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the beginning of my professional career after making it to the national show. It was a TV show, so everybody knew me, and I decided to pursue a music career after that.
Oh, and how has that been so
It,
far?
it has been great. The only thing is that I've been doing so much in the music industry that I never really focused only on my singing ability. For years I was one of the top music video directors in the country. I've directed over 100 music videos in Trinidad.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really popular in that field for quite some years. And my videos, I've done videos for people from Australia, from Germany, from Jamaica, Barbados, Grenada. Some of the top names like Peter Ram and Tal Pre, Norris Man. Some big acts. You know, and I decided, what, it's time that I focus on my music career again, and I started producing songs. So right now I have about 200 songs already recorded, and I have about 4 albums waiting to release. I just released one. It's on Spotify and Amazon and all the digital platforms. It's called Dream to Reality, and it's really just me making my dream a reality.
I mean, I really admire you because you've put together, you were a radio announcer, a music video editor, you've done it all.
Yes.
Among the three of them, which one do you prefer? The chicken and the egg, which came first? Which one do you prefer to
Well, the thing is, I love performing and recording more than anything else,
do?
although that's the one I do the least.
Right.
You know, I became so popular doing other stuff that it distracted me for quite some time, from my own recordings. So I was busy producing music for other artists and doing their music videos, doing the graphic design and all of that. And because I was so good at it, I was being hired, and I'm getting paid. So I'm just stuck doing that.
And that's the way to go.
So right now I'm kind of trying to retire from those things, except for doing it for myself to apply to my own music career, because I spent quite some years doing it for other people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I have been listening to your music, and honestly, I like what I hear. As a musician, once you hear a track for the first time, you know it's a keeper. Whether it's a keeper or it's not, or it's not a keeper. But I would like
Right.
to commend you with respect to that. Um, how did you? How did it? I just want to start from the beginning, right? Um, was anybody in your family a musician?
Well, I am the uncle that everybody has that I didn't have. Yeah, so there was no one in my family at all, and that made it difficult because, of course, I had to do everything on my own. And when you're young in the Caribbean, your parents not going to believe in you as an artist. They want you to get a regular job. You know how that goes, right? So it took some doing. I had to pave my own way. But today, I am, like I said, I'm the uncle that everyone comes to now when they need help in the music industry.
Hmm. But then the uncle is doing great. So, would you remember your first track that you wrote?
I could remember the first song I wrote in primary school around 8 years old. It was a song called Black Friday, and it was a folklore song. It was a calypso, sort of rap so calypso, and it was about the folklores in Trinidad. So it spoke about the Sukunya and the Laja Bless, and you know the ancient stories, right? And it went down pretty well. And as an adult, my first hit song was Sweet Woman that I won the competition with. You know,
Hmm.
first professionally recorded song that was released was a song called Jealous Fellas, and that was released probably about 23 years ago.
And how did it how was it received?
It didn't do too well. As an upcoming artist, it was on a compilation with some other upcoming artists, and it's very difficult to get radio airplay in Trinidad. So it didn't do too well in Trinidad, but it made some waves in New York, which was good because it was also on sale in New York City, right? And not too long after that is when I started working on radio because I realized, you know what, I got to get on the inside of this thing because knocking the door from the outside ain't making sense to me. So I got inside the industry and I started to work my way in the industry, and that's how I ended up in music videos and all of that. I started
Wow.
working on after radio. I left and went to TV stations and started working in, as a TV editor and as a cameraman.
Oh. So, Sheldon, you've done it all, though.
Yeah, I'm still doing all that. Still got a lot more to do.
Yes, 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 yes. Tell the listeners out there, um, did you ever play in a band?
Actually, yes. Well, I first started playing steel pan, right? And actually, I played one of the biggest steel pans ever invented. It's not a regular steel pan that you know. It's a huge steel pan, and it was called a jomoli. We used to call it a jumboli because of its size. And growing up, me and some friends in the neighborhood started our own bands. We had one band called Multiple Vision. It was a what can I say? It was a multi genre band. We played soca, calypso, reggae, everything, and we performed in a few nightclubs and in a few concerts. But I was just a singer. I didn't play any instrument in the band. The only instrument I played professionally was the steel pan, and I played that for about 8 years. All the I play keyboard now, but only in studio for my own productions.
Oh, 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 that's nice. That's great. That's great. That's great. You were talking about the competitions and all that kind in the in Trinidad.
Hmm.
How are they organized? And you know what? I've been following Caribbean music for quite a while, and in Trinidad, for instance, we'll come to that. Um, I hear that I played a track of yours, Let's Party, something like that.
We like to party.
We like to party.
Mm.
Mhm. The genre, actually, maybe it sounded, it's a blend of it, it's a
Yes,
fusion of dancehall.
yeah, it is like a
And
raga soca track.
that's right.
That's what we call it. Yeah.
How did you do that? I haven't heard genres like that before, because right now a lot of people are experimenting with sound. How did you arrive on that?
Well,
Impressive.
it was a natural progression because what happened in Trinidad, a lot of the young artists are attracted to Jamaican music. It has a strong influence. Reggae music plays a lot in Trinidad. So anytime we try to get into singing, it's like our first influence. But because our national music is calypso and soca, it's in our blood. So anytime we try to do soca and we already have that Jamaican influence in us, it kind of creates this crossbreed, right? This fusion, and people started calling it raga soca or dancehall soca, right? So that was a natural progression for me from being a dancehall artist. That when I got into soca, my influence was already like Jamaican oriented. So my approach and my attack on it was like that. So even in my productions, a lot of my music is reggae influenced.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. That's the first time I've heard it. It said, uh, you see, I'm saying this to say that Trinidad has produced a lot of great musicians, and normally you you get that airplay, but you already indicated to me that it's very difficult to get airplay in Trinidad. It's not only in Trinidad; it's around
Yeah,
the globe.
yeah, I'm sure for every upcoming artist, it's one of the challenges.
Yes, I've been through that. I've been through that, and all that I would say that it's not fair, because there are some artists out there who have never been discovered. Some of them are even bigger than the big ones that we know,
Right.
bigger than the big ones we know. Your first time in the studio, because I'm building this Your first time in the studio. How did it happen?
Huh. I I am not even sure when was my first time in the studio. So much
Aha.
happened so quickly, But I know when we first started doing any type of recording, we used to record on cassettes,
Yeah. Oh, back in the
right?
day. Yeah.
And we had a DJ called Special Delivery in our neighborhood, and we would go to his house, and he would put on the instrumentals, the versions from the dancehall and reggae songs, and we would just freestyle over it, and we
Mhm.
would record it on cassette. So that was the beginning or the genesis of our recordings. But recording in a professional studio, I'm not really sure when it actually happened because from the cassette we moved on to 4-track that we did ourselves
Mhm.
at home. We had our own keyboard and we had a 4-track machine, and we'd build our own beats and record our own music on a SA tape, And so it's like we had our own home studio, right? So I kind of already had the whole studio thing down, but I can't tell where was the first like professional recording studio I walked into, and but I know the first song I recorded in a professional recording studio, which
And what was it?
was Jealous Fellas. It was the same Raga Soca song also. It was done at Calypsonian Gypsies recording studio. All right. And I did 2 tracks on the album that he had at the time. It was called Youth Power, the album. I was me and about 5 or 6 other young people at the time that were upcoming artists. So that, but I know I was in studios before that. It's just, sometimes you get into studios on your journey and you might get to audition and you probably never got called back, and you went on, because we used to go in search of studios, you know. As young men, we would walk, no matter how far it was. Once we heard somebody had a studio, we would go there and try to get on the beat, try to audition for them. So I can't really remember which was the first one I
Mhm.
really went into.
Okay. So you've put down the tracks and then everything has been done. And how did you feel? How did you get to know that it's gotten airplay? Or begin that. How did you feel when you heard it being played?
How did I feel? What?
When you heard it being played and where? On the radio, by a
Oh,
DJ?
well, the first time I heard myself being played on radio, it was actually a jingle that I did. All right. After winning the talent competition, um, a lot of radio stations would call us in to do jingles for them and stuff, right? Because we were popular. So it's like dub plates, sort of. And
Mhm.
there was a radio station called 98.9 FM, and I had did a jingle for them. And one day I was walking through the streets of Port of Spain, and like walking outside of a store, and you hear your music playing through the loudspeakers, and you stop and you feel so proud and so happy to hear yourself on the radio, you know. So that was like my biggest moment ever, just hearing myself on the radio walking past in the street, and that felt good. That was a sort of fulfillment that cannot be replaced.
Hmm. Yeah, I would. I went through the same thing,
I can
and
imagine.
then yeah, it was fun. Yes, it was fun, and sometimes you know that, oh yeah, I have arrived. I have arrived.
Yeah, you
So
feel like you got through right
that's
like,
right.
like you reach.
That's right. So right after you heard it, I think, would I be right to say that it gave you some wind beneath your wing to say, oh, wow. I mean,
Yeah, it really boosts your confidence, because it means that people accepted your talent and they understood what you were trying to bring to the table. Because, of course, like I said, during the process, you would go to studios to audition, you probably wouldn't get selected, and you might feel dismayed. It just wasn't your time yet, but you might think, well, okay, maybe I need to practice more, maybe I'm not ready, or maybe this is not for me. Whatever might be discouraging, but when you really get that breakthrough, you feel like, yeah, I'm on the right track.
great. First, we are in conversation with Sheldon Mendoza, all the way in Trinidad and Tobago. We're having a conversation about his experiences in the music industry. And the time right now is 21 minutes past 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, temperature plus 23 degrees Celsius, and sunny, beautiful weather in Toronto. Um, the next question that I'll throw across to you was that After, I mean, let me ask you, how was it received, the first track?
Um, all right, let me see how to put this. Well, like I said, after I did the jingle that was played on the radio, and I felt so good about that and
Mhm.
everything, you know, my confidence was boosted, so I was like, okay, I'm ready to hit the studio. I'm ready to record. I'm really ready to release music, you know. And when I started working on radio, is when I actually started playing my own music on radio,
Mhm.
you know, and the DJs in my station would play my music. So I became like very, very popular uh, on the radio station that I worked at because everybody in the station loved me. And all the announcers and all the DJs would be playing my songs. So when I walk through the streets now, basically I had hits on my hands, you know, because every one of my songs was on rotation, right? So it was well received. Um, but of course, that was mainly on the station that I was connected to. It was still a struggle trying to break the barriers of the other stations, other than the ones that I did jingles for, who had some favor, you know, for me.
Wow, 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 wow. So now you've gotten the national recognition, and people are playing your music, and you feel so good about it. And what was the next era that um, you touched?
Well, when I saw the success of my music in
Mhm.
Trinidad, I had high hopes of going to the US and getting a record deal.
And why is that?
Well, you know,
Everybody flows down there.
yeah, I was always ambitious, you know, and I always like to push the bar, you
Mhm.
know, and my music was always crossover music, always fusion. I'm always, you know, experimenting. So I had some songs that I thought would break it into the international market. So I actually quit my job on the radio and I went to the US looking for a record deal. And actually, I could say I actually got one.
Ah, tell us about it. Tell us, I'm interested in that. Tell us
so,
about it.
so what happened? It's a weird story, right?
Uh-huh.
I think it was 2000 or 1999 or something like that. There was a Miss Universe competition in Trinidad, right? And they had a welcome party for the contestants, and all the delegates were there. So I went to it because, of course, you know, being a little popular, I was invited and I was backstage. While backstage, there was a guy, Marshall Montano. I was king of soca. He was performing on stage, and he stopped his performance and he said he has to bring on a guy on stage who is like this international Trinidadian.
Ooh.
So he started saying that this guy has worked with Jay Z, with P Diddy, with Busta Rhymes, with DMX, you know, just name it, with Lauryn Hill, with the Fugees, and 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 he said, "Let's welcome on stage Flipper." And this guy Flipper came on flipping on stage, and as he was flipping, all his stuff was flying out of his pocket, all his wallets and everything, because it
Uh-oh.
was impromptu, right?
Mhm.
And he came on and he started saying, well, you know, he's in the music industry abroad and he's doing really good. He's managing a group called Allah. You probably heard of them. They had a song
Yeah,
called Cried Out.
that's right.
Right. He was their manager. And they were signed to Mariah Carey's label. So, and they were multi platinum hit selling artists. They had that song with 112. So when he came off the stage, he ran up to me and hugged me up. And he was like, man, so long I haven't seen you. It's so good to see you. Are you still doing music? And I'm like, I don't even know this guy. But I just heard all these accolades about him.
Mhm.
And he comes to me, so he knows me and I don't know him, and he's so big, right? So he gave me his number and was like, "Man, anytime you come to New York, I'm with Violator Records, I'm working with Busta Rhymes, call me." So that's when I decided to quit everything I was doing and go to the US because Flipper, who's this big international manager, is telling me that he knows me and he loves my music and wants me to come to New York. So actually, I quit everything and I flew to New York. Funny enough, though, it took me about 6 months to track him down because he was traveling on tour all over the place. So I had another weird story that was happening at the same time with that. One my
Before you continue, had you ever met him?
to this day I don't remember meeting him, but clearly we met before based on how he interacted with me.
Mhm.
So it has to be that before he made it internationally, we probably met in the music circuit and when we were younger.
Yeah.
Because as far as his bio goes, I think he left Trinidad when he was 18 or something.
Oh, okay.
So maybe when I was popular, he knew me. But then he went abroad, excuse me, and got more popular than me. You know what I mean? But he never forgot me.
Well, that's
So
nice.
that was a blessing for me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And funny enough, in 1997, I don't know if you know this, but Biggie Smalls recorded his last album in Trinidad,
Mhm.
right? So P. Diddy
Oh,
and the producers came to Trinidad. We had a big studio in Trinidad called the Caribbean Song Basin.
right.
It was one of the top 10 studios in the world. So a lot of people flew down here, Mick Jagger and all those guys, Tony, a lot of big stars came to Trinidad to record. So P. Diddy brought his whole crew down here, the Hitmen and the Hit Factory,
Mhm.
to record in that studio. They spent a couple months recording Biggie Small's last album before he was killed. So my producer, who produced my first songs that I recorded professionally at Gypsy Studio, he was one of the assistant engineers there, you know, with them. So he had all their numbers, their phone numbers. So when I was leaving to go abroad, he gave me their numbers. He was like, just tell them that Sean, his name was Sean Merez. So he said, just tell them that Sean gave you the number and make contact and see what you can do, you know? So when I couldn't find Flipper, having to track him down for 6 months, I started calling these other guys. People like Ron Lawrence, Amon Ra. He produced some of Biggie Smalls and P. Diddy's like biggest hits, Carlos Brody, right? And these guys. So I started calling around and they answered their phone. So
Connections. This is what I
connection,
said.
yeah, it's connections. Just building that network.
That's right.
So I got onto Ron Lawrence and he invited me to Virgin Records. And because I was new in the States and taking the train and everything, I got lost. So, so I didn't find him at Virgin Records, but he was moving from there and going over to BMG, which is Sony Records,
Mhm.
and he told me to come there and meet him. So I found there, and it was 28 floors up, you know. And when I went, he didn't know me at all. Remember, I just got a connection with a phone number,
Mhm.
right? But funny enough, there was a guy named Sheldon Benjamin who also worked with them on Biggie Smalls' album from Trinidad. So when I told him I was Sheldon, he thought it was Sheldon Benjamin. Sheldon Benjamin was a big producer. He passed away now, God rest his soul. And his name was Shell Shock, right? His sobriquet was Shell Shock. So he thought I was Shell Shock when I said Sheldon. So he was excited to meet me, thinking it's the guy he worked with.
Yeah.
So so my story is like just blessings that is just hidden. It's like, who are these people? I'm always in some secret thing. And I don't know
Mhm.
how I know Flipper. He thinks this other guy thinks I'm someone else. So when he sees me, he's like, "But you're not Shell Shock." So I said, "Oh, you thought I was Shell Shock?" I said, "I'm Sheldon. We have the same name, but Sean Merez gave me a number and whatever thing." And I told him that I knew Flipper, and he was, "Man, I'm always with Flipper. Flipper is my best friend." So I'm like, "This, you got to be kidding." I said, "Man, I'm trying to find Flipper right now. I came out here looking for Flipper." He said, "Man, I'm gonna help you find Flipper." Right. So that's how I got in contact with Flipper. Right.
Hmm.
So when I linked with Flipper now, we started doing stuff together. He took me around Mariah Carey and them, around Wyclef and them. This guy, Malik Yoba from New York Undercover, was one of his good friends. So I was rolling with the stars now, and I was working on getting this record deal with BMG Records. They love a couple of my songs, and they wanted to bring the producers up to New York and everything. So because we had a big studio in Trinidad, Flipper was like, let's go Trinidad and record the album, right? So, long story short, Flipper and I decided to come back to Trinidad to record the album. When Flipper was sick at the time, which I didn't know, All right. So he came to Trinidad and he wasn't feeling well and he went back to the US. So I stayed in Trinidad and recorded my album. I did like 14 tracks. Actually that album was
Ooh.
never released.
How many
Right?
tracks?
14.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a wow. But my album that I have out right now has 21 tracks.
You must be kidding me.
Yeah, I got 21 tracks on my album on Spotify
Wow.
right now.
Okay.
So what happened now? I recorded my album, took me a couple months, and I went back to the US with it to take it to Flipper so we could take it to the record label. And when I'm calling Flipper's phone, he's not answering. So I had his wife's phone number and I had his lawyer phone number, and I decided to call around and say I've been calling Flipper for 3 days and I can't get on to him. What's going on? And they was like, "You didn't hear the news?" I said, "No, they say Flipper passed away."
Oh no.
And that was 2003. That was a shocker, man. I had my album in my hand, I had a record deal in the
Yeah.
making, and my manager is dead.
Wow.
I had
Wow.
to go to his funeral. So I met up with his wife and I had to help her plan the funeral. And that was the end of my music career internationally at that point,
Mhm.
and I never released the album. And that was 2003. I came back to Trinidad, and that's when I actually got into TV. I was sitting one day at a friend's house, and there was these two new TV stations that just launched in Trinidad. One was called Gael, and one was called Synergy TV. And they were playing. They were like BT and MTV.
Yeah.
A lot of music videos and that type of stuff. I wasn't even doing music videos yet because I was still trying to be a singer at that point, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I looked at the TV station and I said, you know what? I'm gonna go work for one of those stations. My friend's like, how are you gonna get a job there? I said, I don't know, but I'm gonna go. So by the time I said that, it just had to manifest, right?
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, he knew this video director who was doing music videos, but he was a kind of older guy and his videos wasn't hip, you know? And he was like, boy, if you go to that man and like team up with him, you could bring the youthful thing to his videos. Because as a young man, we couldn't afford cameras and all of that,
That's right.
right? So this older guy had a video production company. So I went to him and I was like, you know what? This is what's missing for your music videos that you're trying to do, right?
Right.
And I
And I
started
said,
giving him that young flair, showing him how to edit it. But I couldn't edit, but I would tell him what to do, right? So we did a few videos together, and I had them as I was like director, but he was the cameraman and the editor, right? So when I went to the TV station, I worked with those demos, and they saw it and they liked it, and it's like, we want you to come and work for us as an editor. But
wow.
I couldn't edit anything. I never touched the computer. I only told the guy what to do by standing over his shoulder, right? However, that's the work I used to get a job, and they loved it. So they said to me, "What software do you use? We'll buy it for you." So I was like, "No, just teach me what software you use, and I'll just use whatever you use," because I couldn't use none. Right? So I had to basically fake it to make it. So they showed me the software that they use, and I started learning, and I became the number one editor in Synergy TV. I
Wow.
started off just doing commercials, and I ended up doing like 5 shows per week. You know,
Wow.
yeah, and I stayed there for about 3 years, and then there was this television station called Tempo that was being launched by MTV, and I heard about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go work for them. So my co-workers at Synergy TV is like, nobody even knows where they're located. How are you gonna work for them? I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to New York and find them.
Determination.
Determination. So I quit my job at Synergy TV, and I jumped on a plane and I went back to New York, and I started Googling, and I found a producer for for Tempo Networks called Leslie Pinkney. I saw her in a Google article, so I went in the phone book. Those days there was these directories, and
Don't go there.
I found her name and number, and I called her and I said, "Hey, my name is Sheldon Mendoza. I'm from Trinidad. I'm a music video director and television producer. and I'm in the US and I'd like to have a meeting with you. But I only got a voicemail. So I left a message and she called me back the night, maybe like when she returned home from work. And she was like excited. She was like, "Oh, I'd love to meet with you. You know how long you're going to be in New York for and whatever." I said, "Well, I'm here for a little while." She said, "Well, come meet me the next day." So the funny thing is, when I was leaving to go to New York, my passport was expiring in 2 days.
Uh-oh.
And I didn't know that. But I could still travel because it was still valid for 2 days. So as soon as I got to New York, I sent it into the consulate to get it renewed. And that was my only form of ID at the time. So I went to, it was MTV Paramount Plaza.
Mhm.
So I went to MTV building to go to see Leslie Pinkney, and I couldn't get in the building because I had no ID. So now I'm stuck. And those days was only phone booths. I didn't have cell phone and all of that. And the security guard refused to call anybody, right? So I went and I started asking people for quarters on the streets, and I got some quarters, and I made a phone call
You
to.
must be kidding.
I'm telling you, people were passing me straight. Actually, I learned something that day. I was asking for quarters, and people thought it was like I was a bum or something. But then I took out some money and asked for change, and I got the quarters. You know, so I called her, and she sent a girl downstairs to meet me. When the girl came downstairs, her name was Tiffany Walters. She was from Trinidad also. So we hit it off on the elevator going up this, and I was passing VH1 and MTV going up the floors. I'm like, wow, I made it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because remember, I'm trying to fulfill this dream. So I got up to her office and she was like, man, I understand what you're going through. I had to send my passport to renew also. I just came back from Africa. My passport expired. So it was like magical. We just had conversation, you know? And I gave her some. Well, at that time I had a lot of music videos now, so I showed her my music videos and stuff, and she was blown away. And she was like, "We're gonna play this on MTV. We need this, right?" She gave me some release forms and stuff. I had to take back to the artist, and then Trinidad to sign to authorize it to be played. And they eventually made me the official go-to person to get your music video on MTV Tempo.
Wow.
Yeah, so anybody in Trinidad had to get a video on, had to come through me.
Wow.
Yeah, so then my videos took over their station. It was MTV Tempo. It was a Caribbean network, so it played in 28 Caribbean islands. So my music videos were all over the Caribbean. That's why I got so much work with
Mhm.
music videos, because I was very popular with music videos. And eventually, the owner of the station, a guy named Frederick Morton, he came to Trinidad looking for me because he was like, "Who's this guy who's taking over everything?" So he came to Trinidad to meet with me, and he offered me a job at the station. Remember, I
Wow.
said I left my job at Synergy, said I'm gonna work for that station. you know. So then I started working for them, and I became the number one producer on Tempo Networks. I was a director, editor, cameraman, and a producer. And I started going all around the Caribbean doing TV shows for them. We would do tourism shows, so we would videotape the beaches, interview the people, we'd cover concerts, so we'll cover the music festivals, the carnivals, and all of that. And I was in charge. As a matter of fact, if you look at any of those shows from my time, you would see my name on all the credits because I was cameraman. Sometimes I was even host,
No
you know.
kidding.
Yeah, I had to host a couple of shows also. So I did so much in this music industry, man. It's like I know everything about it. I'm only now focusing again after all these years fully on my music, and I gave everything else a rest.
Yeah. Um, it seems as if like you've had a very lucky journey. Not a lot of people, have been able to get to where you were, because what I see is that you did what you had to do, and things started falling in their places for you.
Yes.
And in this, in during this journey, my question to you is that, were there any challenges?
See again?
Were there
Challenge.
any challenges? Yeah.
You know, I think if there were challenges, they were only in my mind because, as you can see, there was a spirit guiding me.
Hmm.
You know, everything was all the doors were just opening because I was making the effort.
Hmm.
I was a go-getter. I was going after it, and I guess I was attracting those blessings, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I really experienced any challenges other than maybe what didn't happen at each interval wasn't supposed to happen at that time. You know, like the record deal and all of that. When Flipper passed away and I didn't get the record deal because he died and all of that. I think that wasn't supposed to happen because I was supposed to learn a lot more on this journey. Because now when I look back at interviews from artists from back in the day, all of them got robbed in the record deal.
Oh yes.
You know, you
Oh
know,
yes.
you
Oh
know.
yes.
So I think I was actually dodging a bullet, but I was learning in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I was being guided because eventually I started doing music business courses. I'm actually certified now as a music business consultant. You know, I did sound engineering courses, music production courses. I went and did radio broadcasting course. I did television production courses. You know, so I think I'm only now really prepared to receive everything that I was working towards because now I'm like highly qualified for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think it was really challenges. I think everything that didn't happen, it wasn't supposed to happen because I would have a bitter story instead of a sweet one, you know?
Yeah. 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 Folks, we are in conversation with Sheldon Mendoza. What a story. What a story. What a story. And my understanding is that we are having a little bit of a technical difficulty with respect to those of you listening to us on the radio. But then we are trying to fix it. And if you're viewing us, yeah, the man is here. He's sharing his life's experiences with us. Sheldon, the next question will be, how do you see Sheldon Mendoza in 5 years?
Huh. Nice question. In 5 years, I really want to be touring the world. I want to have probably a couple albums released, quite a few. You know, I already have four in waiting. So I probably want to have about 10 albums released. More if I can because I produce my own music, you know. I want to be touring the world because I love performing. You know, it was my first real love. And I think I would eventually want to have a huge record label in the Caribbean
Mhm.
that could assist young upcoming artists and give them the fair deal that recording artists deserve, you know. And even if I can actually partner with an international label to bring that standard and that quality to Trinidad, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, so that's where I see myself in 5 years.
What about in 10 years?
In 10 years, I want to be retired. Yeah, in 10 years, I want to really be, you know, just managing stuff on a different level.
Yeah. But
Uh,
not retirement though, because in our business you cannot retire.
I know, right? You know, but I don't think I think I want to do as much as I can, like I say, in the 5 years, and if I could accomplish those things within 5 years, then the next five towards the 10 would be running it,
Mhm.
and then being able to pass it on to someone younger who can actually, you know, carry on the legacy, you know, and just be like a mentor,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, because at the end of the day, after it all, you still want to be able to vacation and enjoy life,
Yeah.
you know,
Definitely.
right?
Definitely.
So
You you touched on back in the day where a lot of people lost, money. You're an artist. You you write music. You do whatever you want to do to get to where you want to be, where you want to get to. Even it's not within the the environment of the up and coming musician, but even established musicians, because we were not exposed to great contract writing, contract reading. We just got it, and just like you were saying, as soon as the opportunity opened up, I don't think you even thought of even thinking about a lawyer, an entertainment lawyer, to say that okay, read this through for me, or even whether you sign a contract or not. In this kind of atmosphere, with what we see today in our music industry, we come to that. What would be your advice to the young and up and coming artists? Because it seems things are running, they are running as soon as they hit one jackpot, they think, oh, the whole world is hallelujah, we've arrived. But
uh,
they don't think about the time that everything will come to an end.
right.
And at that time, what do you have? What advice would you give to up and coming, artists, because I see it and I have been seeing it. We've been giving this platform to a lot of them, giving them the wherewithal to publicize them, to give them the push, because we've got connections to music executives,
Right.
afrocharts.com and stuff like that. We'll talk about it out there. So, what advice would you give them? Because it's something dear to my heart.
Well, firstly, I think any upcoming artist, what they should do while they're doing their music is learn the music business. Because if they don't start focusing on the business along with the actual production, they're gonna lose out in the end because there's publishing, there's royalties, there's copyright, and if you don't start learning about those things, somebody else is gonna be collecting for you, right? So my best advice to every upcoming artist is learn something about the music business, and also learn something that is necessary that goes along with your music. For instance, at least learn to do graphics so you can do your own YouTube covers and your own album covers, and any little promotional flyers you can do for yourself, because everything in this industry has a price,
Yeah.
right? So learn something additionally. If you're in a studio every day, try to learn the engineering also. Learn how to mix, learn how to master, learn some sort of production, all right? Because really and truly, I am only able to release a 21 track album because I'm doing it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't pay for 21 tracks to be produced,
That's right.
right? I
Yeah.
produce my own music videos, so I can do as much as I want. I
Yes.
couldn't pay for all those things to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So learn something else other than just the singing, you know,
Yeah.
right? Because if you don't if you don't learn about your publishing, you wouldn't have a pension in the end.
That's right. It's great that you said that, because we had an artist from Nigeria, a big one, and then he said the same thing.
Hmm.
He had to sit back, learn engineering, even learn how to play the keyboards, and then do also all sort of things. And now he's in his own. I mean, he's on his own,
Right.
doing everything. But you see, a lot of new artists are always running to go and sign deals with record labels and stuff like that. But I think, to me personally, and to Petra, we've been saying this over and over and over again. The big boys era is over, because we are. I mean, you are producing your own music. Back in the day, people would just be, oh yeah, I want to go and sign with Sony Records. I want to sign with it. But they always forget that the moment you go out there to put your a pen on paper, that's it.
Yep. Yep.
We've seen great musicians. They make the hit today. Tomorrow, you will never hear from them again, because the record company has found a new person out there.
That's true.
And today, our cell phones, you can record on the cell phone.
Yes.
You can edit it. Like,
Hmm.
as a professional with you can record a music video on that.
Yes, you can.
So basically, you can do everything that you want to do. But like what you just said, you've got to go and learn one thing, even graphic design.
Yeah.
To do something like, it's a good thing that you've touched on that, and I appreciate that. I mean, you are in the business. So, my general question, the question that has been beating me, is that this is general when it comes to Trinidadian music.
Hmm.
Soca, Calypso, we play that every day. Kaiso and everything. I'm so saddened by the fact that I love Soca. As a matter of fact, when I was starting out, a record company wanted me to um, write Soca, Calypso music, and I said, no, I'm not from Trinidad.
Right.
I'm an African. Trinidadians are Africans. But, man, I write highlight music, hip hop music.
Hmm.
I can do that. All right. So now Trinidad has produced so many musicians, great artists, Sparrow, Kitchener, all these guys. And then when it comes to the international stage,
Hmm.
reggae is there. Now Afrobeats is there, but Soca Kaiso were there
Before all of them.
before.
Yeah.
What do you think has been a problem? Because on this program, I was able to speak with the music executive the other time, and I asked the same question, and she said she has, made every effort to get producers, managers to contact her. Every time she does that, nothing. What is the problem right now? If you have any idea about what Trinidadian music, I don't know what's actually going on.
Um, that's a fully loaded question, and it's going to be a fully loaded answer.
Yes,
You
please.
know, well, let's start from calypso being the first music to sell 1 million records in the world, right?
Mhm.
So basically, we invented platinum.
It's right.
All right. So at the beginning of it, everybody was into calypso music, right? Culturally, it was a lot of tourists coming to the islands and taking the music back with them. So it was able to go international based on just that transit, right? Calypso music, on the hand, on the as it got the name calypso got big, for some reason we changed it to soca. So we kind of had to start over. We didn't stick with the genre calypso as our main music. We did some experimenting and we came up with this new type of music, which is a mixture of African rhythms and East Indian rhythms, and we call it soca music. And of course, it's calypso influenced. And it was more of a party music than the calypso. And we're a party island, so
Mhm.
we ran with soca. However, the world didn't know soca, they knew calypso. So we detached ourselves from calypso, which means we also detach ourselves from the world,
Mhm.
right? So that's the first issue that we changed the name basically. Because even if you look at Jamaica, they have dancehall, but it's still called dancehall reggae.
Reggae, yes. Yes.
We probably should have said soca calypso, you know, or calypso soca or something,
Mhm.
right? Notwithstanding that the creator of soca, Ras Shorty, I said it was the soul of calypso,
Yeah.
but of course, being shortened to soca, everybody ran with soca. And so that's the beginning of the problem. The next part of the problem is that when we detached ourselves from calypso and calypso fell from grace, we also lost the contacts with the major labels because at that time, even Sparrow and Kitchen and all these guys and Harry
Yeah.
Belafonte, they were signing with major record labels, right? So you remember record labels only deal with how much units you can move. In other words, how much records you can sell.
So,
We being an island with only 1.2 million people at the time, we couldn't sell no millions of records
mhm.
like we're selling it in the US with Calypso. So to start with a whole new music, soca that nobody knows, no record label was going to take that chance, right? Because it was something new and it's now growing and it was only attached to our carnival, which is seasonal, excuse me. So that also limited our opportunities abroad because, of course, no A&R execs know the music, right? And we don't have a track record of selling any, as opposed to the Calypso that sold 1 million and millions after that. So we are now offering a new music in a time when other music genres are brewing because hip hop, dancehall, and soca actually started around the same time in the 70s, somewhere there, right? So all these other music are brewing and growing, and we are now here beginning with a whole new music after we were on top. So I think that also limited our opportunities because we didn't have a track record of being able to sell any, and record labels wouldn't take chance on music, they take chance on money, right? So that was our other downfall. As time went on, soca became very big in the Caribbean, so almost every Caribbean country was singing soca,
Mhm.
right? But it was still relegated to their carnivals and our carnival. It still wasn't making an international breakthrough, right? There was one time when Sean Paul, Shaggy, Elephant Man, Wayne and Wonder, and this whole dancehall era broke in the early 2000s into the US market. The people were excited about Caribbean music once more. And there was an opportunity for soca to get in there. That's how we saw Kevin Little come in with Turn
Mhm.
Me On. And we
Yeah.
saw Rupee come in with Tempted to Touch. We had to just do the follow up, but here's what happened. Since we never had any connections in the industries and we didn't know anybody we could take the music to, we started creating a lot of music similar to what Kevin Little did and what Rupi did, which we call groovy soca, right? Now, if you know, in Trinidad at that time there was a competition called the Soca Monarch competition.
Yes, yeah.
The biggest soca competition in the country. All the biggest artists enter that and they win $1 million prize and all of that, right? So when everybody did a groovy soca that year, the promoter of that competition decided to add into his competition the groovy soca monarch.
Oh boy.
So you know what happened? We lost all focus on trying to make it like Kevin Little and Rupi, and we started singing with groovy soca for groovy soca monarch right back in Trinidad. So you see what happened,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we had a whole market full of music that could make it internationally, and we push it right back into the carnival, and it's died a slow death right there. Over the years, everybody started focusing on winning groovy soca monarch because there's $1 million at stake, and we forgot about record deals and record labels and everything. And then Afrobeats came,
Hmm.
and Afrobeats was a combination of Afro beat music, soca music, and dancehall music,
Yeah.
which is perfect. You know what I mean? Because it's all elements in one.
Yeah, yeah.
And, and Afrobeats has a huge continent,
Oh yes, the whole
but
world, the whole world.
global. So of course record labels could sell that, you know. So they jump on board what moves the units. Afrobeats, Africa has a couple 100 million people, close to a billion,
1.2 billion.
1.2 billion, right? And then the rest of the world is hooked on it. And once American media is marketing it, you know it's worldwide. So Afrobeats was able to take that space that soca was really supposed to inherit.
Yeah. But you
You know,
see, there's one thing that I'll be able to add to that. You see, the Afrobeats musicians, and there are a lot of them, great artists out there. I think they are not looking at going on to signing with the big boys, and then most of them are doing it independent
right?
because there is that mindset that once you sign, you're doomed. But
Yeah.
then, if you can do it on your own, like you, Sheldon, you do your own stuff. Why do
Hmm.
you have to go to somebody who didn't do anything to push you out there? One. Number two, social media is there.
Hmm.
So you can market your own stuff. So the
Indeed.
big boys right now, they can't touch the Afrobeat musicians because whatever you can do, I can do.
Exactly.
If I sign it, I sign my name, I sign everything. You give me some front money, maybe $2 million, but would I be looking at maybe say 10 years from now? No. And so because most of them were young artists and then they had never seen such big money, you know,
Well,
they were jumping for it.
one of the things too that influenced the young artists signing the deal back in the day, it was also the distribution. Remember,
Yeah,
there was no way to get your music to another country
yeah,
unless you had a
yeah,
major label
mhm,
because they had stores that they work with because it was physical records at the time.
yeah.
You
Big
know,
one. Yeah.
so today my music, as a matter of fact, I released an album yesterday.
Mhm,
It's not even my album. It's an album I have some tracks that I featured on. But what happened is my cousin's album.
mhm,
Many years ago, I had a cousin called Uzi in New Orleans, and I went there and recorded an album with him. And it was on CD at the time, and it was never ever released on Spotify or any of those things since. It was in 2003. So last year, after 20 years, I went back to New Orleans and performed with him. And I told him, I said, well, you know what? I'm going to put this album out for you, so that it could be found online now. It never was released online. So just a few minutes ago, my daughter messaged me and said she just played one of my old songs online.
mhm.
I'm like, what song you talking about? Because I actually forgot that I was releasing this album because when you submit it, it takes approval and all of that before it gets released into the digital stores. So she was like, one of your old songs. So I went on her status on her story on Facebook and I saw the song, and I'm like, oh my god! So I went back to my email now, and like, oh, this they released the album.
Oh boy.
It's called "Who Am I," right, by Uzi, and I have a couple tracks. It's a hip hop reggae album, right? He's from Trinidad also, but he lives in New Orleans. He probably been in New Orleans like since he was 3 years old. He grew up there,
Yeah.
but he came to Trinidad when he was an adult and got influenced by my music and decided to go and do music himself and started his own record label. And then I went over there and worked with him, and now I'm releasing his album. Now,
Ah,
he
awesome.
doesn't even know it's out. So
Sweet.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell him now because then he tried calling me, and I know it's coming on the radio. So I said when I come off this, I'm gonna send him the link and say, hey, your music is now online.
That's right. And
Right?
we got to have it too.
I'm gonna send it to you guys. And the thing is now, I said all that to say that now we don't need a distributor to get it to other countries.
Precisely.
Automatically, it's around the world right now.
1 second.
So we don't need to sign to these labels anymore
Yes.
because we don't need to get into physical stores.
No. No. I think that era is over. And before we go, what would you like to tell your fans, and how can they reach you? Because there are a lot of artists out there who may need music videos and all this kind of stuff, because you've done it all within
Mm.
this industry. From our conversation, you've done it all. You know the north, south, east, west, central of the industry. What would be your advice to them? Number one. Number two, how can they reach you? Just share your contact information with them.
Yeah, well, my name has some weight on the internet. It's easy to find on Google, because I do so many different things. I'm also a photographer. I'm also an artist. I paint portraits of people and landscape and seascape. You know,
What don't you do? What don't you do? Sheldon, what don't you
I don't know.
do?
I was just blessed with so much talent,
Awesome. Yes, sir.
and I take advantage of it.
Amen.
So,
Yeah,
so I didn't go into my artistic painting side, but I also do that, and I've done some international work with that too, some big stuff. And so Sheldon Mendoza, just Google it, right? It's Sheldon Mendoza on Facebook. It's Sheldon Mendoza on TikTok. It's Sheldon Mendoza on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music. It's Sheldon Mendoza on Instagram. You know, just look it up. Look me up, Sheldon Mendoza, and you'll find me. And I'm on all the platforms. I live on my laptop, so I'm gonna respond. Right? I will reply to you.
yeah. Before we go, I have Ron. Ron is an ardent listener. He's a producer. I mean, a track that he has produced is doing wonders. And he is asking, how is Afrobeat music doing in North America? The short end of it is that it's doing great, because there are a lot of people who are moving towards the Afrobeats music. It's fun. It's really, really fun. And there are so many musicians out there who have not yet been discovered, and every one of them is a superstar. And it's doing, to me, in my book of books, Afrobeats music is doing great. Hi, Ron. I hope you're doing great. And also, it is true. Um, People who do Afrobeat music are in, yes, and I support that, because enough is enough is enough is enough for the big boys to have gotten what they wanted. But
Mhm.
now, if you can do that on your own, market it, put it on social media, what more do you have? That what will be the contact information that everybody should be reaching out to you?
Right. If you want to get me, it's Mendoza Sheldon at yahoo.com. It's my name backwards, Mendoza Sheldon at yahoo.com. And my phone number in Trinidad, I've had this number like over 20 years, right? It's 1-868-727-6228. You can call me even if it's late. Right? So that's 868-727-6228.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Ron, thank you. Yes, we are here to promote the music. Yes, we are here to promote the music. This is a platform. So if you're an artist out there, you don't have to pay payola. Everything's for free here on Love the Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. Yes, you see, this radio station was born out of the fact that when I had won the Juno Award, a friend of mine went to a radio station. He was so excited. According to him, he was so excited.
Mm.
And he said he knew a DJ. He said, oh, he always want this, you and his group, the African guitars. And we're a collection of great musicians, and we wanted you. So he said when he turned around to ask the DJ, when are you going to play it? He saw him fling the CD.
Mm.
So he never told me. Maybe after a year, he told me, and I made lemonade out of lemon. And I said to myself, I'll set up a radio station because we have to have a platform where we can also promote artists. So we do that as a not-for-profit radio station, reaching every artist out there. Provided the music is clean, no genre is, so far as Afrobeats music, like Ron's music, I love it.
Right.
The track that he brought, the very first time that we put it out there, it was doing great, and it's doing so great too. So this is just to say that you don't have to be beholden to the big boys and do whatever you have to do. But then, like you said, you've given us some gems, and we'll take it. And then it's a pleasure having you. I've learned a lot about you because you know the ins and outs of the industry. So we'll invite you back because the conversation has not yet ended. Petra is not here. Petra has the big questions. We'll invite you back. What? Take care of yourself and reach out and do more music, produce more music.
Thank you. Thank you.
The world needs the likes of Sheldon Mendoza.
Great. And everyone out there, you can look out for me. I'll be at the All Africa Festival in Dubai again this year. I performed there last year, the All Africa Festival in Dubai. I'm supposed to have a show in Germany in August, Tropical Festival out there, Caribbean Music Festival out there in Germany. So I'll be coming to a city near you sometime soon.
You've never mentioned Toronto, though.
Say again?
Toronto.
Come on, I'm waiting. Just say the word and I'll be at Love Bay Radio in Toronto. You'll be hearing me saying, hey, come out tonight and follow me at some club somewhere in Toronto, okay?
Awesome. Thank you, Sheldon, for sharing your time with us. I know you have a very busy schedule, and thank you for your time and your space. And to the listeners and the viewers, thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing us into your space. And on behalf of myself and Petra, who is performing as we speak out there, bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Love Bay Radio. And Petra, hope to see you next time around.
That's right. And hi, Ron. We'll talk later. Bye-bye.